What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So we are now firmly in mock draft season, less than a month until the 2025 NHL draft. Hand up, I'm a full-blown mock draft addict, whether it's creating my own or looking at other people's mock drafts. I love it, and especially considering my team has a pretty important pick in this draft, I've really been getting into it. So today we are going to be reacting to our first post-lottery mock draft, and we're going to be looking at the Athletics, which in my opinion, them and elite prospects are like the gold standard for this kind of thing. So yeah, they did a full first round mock draft. Let's get into it, baby. Let's freaking get into a mock draft. This is going to be from the perspective if they were general managers. So when I did my mock draft 6.0 where we're at right now, that's me putting who I think is going to get selected for those teams. When I did the group mock draft with Grav, Zach, and Marcus, that is more so what I personally would do. This is more so what these guys would personally do in a mock draft. Just got to get that out of the way before we dive into it. So, yeah, this is from Scott Wheeler, Corey Pronman, Max Blutman. Very good, or Boltman. Very good guys in terms of prospects. Matthew Schaefer, number 1. Okay, let's pick. No shocker with the top 2, me spoiling that Misa pick. He says Schaefer, Misa, and Higgins are his top 3. You could consider the hometown. I personally would not. That should not factor into this decision unless you literally had Schaefer or Higgins tied with either Misa or Schaefer as your number 1 guy. If they're tied, then you factor in that he's a hometown kid. But if not, and I think with Matthew Darsh as general manager, he won't do that. Yeah, the ideal build of a number 1 defenseman. The sample size isn't fantastic, but when he's played, he's been crazy. Amazing skater. Don't mess it up. Misa number 2. Let's not spoil the next one. Misa number 2. Pretty straightforward as well. When looking at San Jose Sharks, take the best player available. There's no defenseman remotely in the realm of a Michael Misa. It never hurts to have just amazing forwards in terms of just being a beast forward core. Number 3, who we got here? Caleb Desnoyers going to the Chicago Blackhawks. Makes sense, though. 6'2", solid two-way center. Bedard is definitely more so of an offensive goal-scoring number 1 center. So you get Desnoyers. He's personally my number 3 prospect in this draft, so I'm definitely on board for this. If I was Chicago and I had the pick at number 3, assuming the top 2 guys, I also probably would go with Desnoyers. I wouldn't hate Martone, considering he could play with Bedard and add some serious size. But I think Desnoyers makes a lot of sense as well. The things that Sam Reinhart, Mikko Rantanen, they're talking about Martone there. Never mind. For some reason, I thought they were saying Desnoyers was Mikko Rantanen 2.0. But yeah, he's going to be a damn good second-line center. Let's move on. James Higgins and Frundell. Higgins to Utah, I don't exactly love. Obviously, if he's at 4, like the clear best player available in your books, take him. But I do think that there is some redundancy, as they mentioned here, with Cooley and Higgins as 2 slightly undersized, more so playmaking centers. They're going to have to surround them with some serious size on their wings. But yeah, again, Higgins is my 4th best prospect, so I wouldn't hate this. But I'm probably not opting for Higgins here if I'm Utah. Anton Frundell, 5th. We got Frundell. Makes perfect sense. They definitely need a center compared to a Porter Martone that is a winger. At number 6, surely Porter Martone, though. Okay, Porter Martone to Philadelphia. Definitely seems like a Philadelphia guy. Does play on the right wing with Michkov, does as well, but you're going to have the best right wing duo for the next 15 years or something like that, so it makes perfect sense. I think that they might go with like a Jake O'Brien here over a Porter Martone just because they would need a center, but this is what these guys are doing if they were the general manager. We got to remember that. Already 208 pounds. Big boy. 7th goes Jake O'Brien. When I was doing a mock draft on the Isles House podcast, Rocco, one of the co-hosts, made a good point. Like, imagine an O'Brien jersey hanging in a Boston sports bar. It's like meant to be. That would be really cool. And it makes sense for Boston. Yeah, I think you definitely go center. They have a big-time pressing need to potentially find that number 1 center eventually. And he's of decent stature. He needs to put on some serious weight. But what he showed this year with like 96 points, I think, in the OHL, he has the makings of a potential number 1 defenseman, or number 1 center. When you look at him, as I mentioned here, hockey IQ is what really stands out. Nothing physically is really off the charts with O'Brien in terms of shot, skating, or playmaking, but always just seems to make the right decision. And playing with David Pastrnak will make the decisions pretty goddamn easy for this guy. At number 8, they go with Roger McQueen. Jeez, it's a swing, but they already have so many centers. Oh my God, did they even mention that they have so many guys? Like, I can understand going Porter Martone if he falls here because he is a winger and they don't have a ton of wingers within the pipeline. But McQueen, unless you think McQueen's genuinely a top 5 guy in this draft and you think that he is going to be like a Tage Thompson 2.0 or something ridiculous like that, I cannot get behind that pick at all. Kashawn Atchison, I think if Buffalo was in this spot, you got to go Radim Merca just because they need a right-handed defenseman. But I do understand why you would have Kashawn Atchison ahead of Radim Merca. They say Victor Eklund is the best player available. I'd also maybe agree with that there. But yeah, defense does make sense. Just left-handed defense, as we've talked about so many times. They have so many left-handed defensemen, but Kashawn Atchison is within my top 10 prospects in this draft, so I would not hate this one bit for the Buffalo Sabres. Number 10, Radim Merca. This would be an awesome pick by the Anaheim Ducks. I believe is Solberg a right-hand? He's a righty or lefty, but still, they're kind of set at most positions in terms of their core pieces, but it never hurts to draft a 6'6", 207-pound right-handed defenseman. I'd be shocked if he gets past Seattle and Buffalo, though. This is definitely a little bit of a bold mock draft, in my opinion. Radim Merca, I think, is 8th or 9th. You could basically, like, if they give out even odds, 8th or 9th for Radim Merca, I would hammer that. Brady Martin, 11th. I'm trying to think of who even still is remaining at this point, but makes sense. Get a center, then say like an Eklund or something like that. Actually, I think they would go Jackson Smith, and I personally have Jackson Smith ahead of a Brady Martin in terms of getting that legit a potential top pair defenseman, because I think for Pittsburgh, the strategy should be more so defensemen, because next year they're probably going to absolutely suck in the top 4 or 5 of that draft. It's looking like a special forward draft, and especially centers. So interesting there. But some people, this is who they would pick as general manager, and some people absolutely love Brady Martin because he is the perfect blend of skill and physicality. Only 6 foot, but like he lays people the hell out. The strength is off the charts. Victor Eklund falling to the New York Rangers. I think that they should go defense, but in this situation, they're a little bit limited unless they love Jackson Smith. Victor Eklund does make sense, though. I think that he would turn into a damn good middle 6 forward, even with him being developed by the New York Rangers. Justin Carbonneau, I love this pick for Detroit in terms of beefing up their wings with a good goal scorer that is a great skater. Yeah, I think that he's a better prospect right now than Brandsegg Nygaard or Nate Danielson. Shoot me for that. But right now, I think based on what he proved in the QMJHL, he's younger. I'd go with him over those guys. Jackson Smith falls to 14. This would be a great pick by Columbus. Even though they have Werenski and Matejchuk on the left side, I don't think you could ignore potentially picking up a guy like Jackson Smith that transports the puck that he does, the way that he does at 6'3". Damn good. Yeah, big minute blue liner. And Werenski is 28 years old at this point, like the 2015 guys. Although I expect Werenski to be an elite player throughout his 30s, he's starting to get up there in age to a degree. So by the time Jackson Smith hits his prime, Werenski would be coming out of his prime. Cole Reshny at 15th. Canucks, I think you go center. Reshny, whether it's Reshny, Coots, someone else, there's going to be a shit ton of centers there. They really can't mess up this pick too much. And Reshny has some of the biggest offensive upside, playmaking upside of anybody in this range, not in this draft. 16th, Carter Baird to the Montreal Canadiens. I think this makes a lot of sense. High upside guy. He lacerated his Achilles, did not tear his or rupture his Achilles, so he's already like on the way back, might be participating at the Combine to a degree, and will be skating this offseason, and the injury happened in like February, so I wouldn't be too worried compared to maybe some other guys that deal with Achilles injuries. And Baird is like just a skill and overall motor. He just checks boxes across the board. And he's a solid size at 6 foot. Lyndon Lakovic, yeah, this would be a really good draft by Montreal. This would fully solidify their forward core for the next 15 years in terms of adding 2 guys with sizable upside, but also, I think, pretty decent floors when looking at Lakovic's size and Bear's motor. 6'4" to 190 pounds. He's put on some weight, but highly productive on Moose Jaw this year. Braden Coots to Calgary. I think this would be a solid pick. Braden Coots is definitely a high floor kind of guy. Calgary never hurts to pick up a potential second-line center here. Definitely need some more swings in the next year's draft, per se. We'll see who they take at 23rd here, but an interesting pick. Logan Hensler to St. Louis. I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of St. Louis needing right-handed defensemen. Yeah, they're loaded in terms of forwards. Snuggerud, Bolduc, Dvorsky, Neighbors are only going to need more ice time relatively soon. And I'm not that high on Adam Juracek compared to others, considering he's dealt with injuries and has not really produced a ton. So Hensler looks like he can be a solid second pair guy at the next level. Good measurables. solid. Was on a bad Wisconsin team, so he kind of got a bad draw. Jack Nesbitt to Columbus. I like this pick as well. Take a swing. You're not going to go two forwards within or two defensemen within the top 20. So take a swing on a forward potentially. Nesbitt is definitely a late riser, but with that size, could potentially turn into something. And for Columbus, their forward core for the most part is relatively set. I wouldn't hate a goalie here for Columbus, though. Zach in our group mock draft took Ravensbergen 14th overall. But I think at 20th, that makes more sense, and I could potentially see it. Ravensbergen immediately after for Ottawa. That's interesting. I mean, Columbus does have Jack Greaves. Ottawa does have Levi Merilainen. I don't know if they would go Ravensbergen, just considering what Merilainen did at the NHL level this year, like a 925 in 13 games and still had like a 910 at the AHL level. I think if Ottawa is picking here, I think they're taking a swing on a forward most likely. I had Cole Reshny in my mock draft. Philadelphia getting Colin Potter. This would be a very, very good pick in terms of a high upside guy. One of the best skaters in this draft, point blank period. Decently productive this year at ASU and great at the U18s. I like that a lot for Philly. Cameron Reed to the Nashville Predators. Him and Molendyk, kind of roughly the same player. One of them's probably going to hit most likely, which maybe consider Blake Fiddler. I think Blake Fiddler and Nashville would maybe make a little bit more sense, but Reed definitely has a higher upside given his offensive tools. Sasha Boymedian to the Los Angeles Kings. They already don't play their young defenseman right now, so I don't know if I absolutely love this pick, but he is on the left side compared to Spence and Clark on the right side, so maybe he would. They do have Mikey Anderson and Gavrikov on the left side, though, but makes some sense. LA's fine in terms of the forward core. Malcolm Spence to Chicago. I would like to pick a decent amount. Again, high floor, high motor for a guy like Malcolm Spence. And for Chicago, they already have a decent amount of guys that have a high offensive upside. Take Spence, put him in your middle six for the next 12 years, and you're going to be a happy customer at 25th overall. Blake Fiddler at Nashville here. Okay. Maybe they were alluding to that. Maybe I didn't read that wrong. But yeah, 6'4", 210 pounds. He's like a better Andrew Gibson who they have right now within their system. I'm decently high on Fiddler. I don't have him like top 20 or something ridiculous, but I have him in this range. I think that would be if they go Fiddler and then also who did they pick? I already forget who they picked. Yeah. Cameron Reed here. That'd be a pretty solid draft by Nashville. Let's go back. Milton Gastrin to Washington. I think he'd be a pretty ideal potential future third-line center behind guys like PLD and Dylan Strome and learn from those guys in terms of a two-way game. I really like Milton Gastrin, I can't lie. He's within my top 20. This would be a steal. Ben Kindle falling to the Winnipeg Jets. I forgot about Ben Kindle. I think that he goes to Calgary with one of those picks. Potentially high offensive upside. Winnipeg would be salivating, potentially, as a future Ehlers replacement down the line. Not exactly, but you got what I mean. High offensive upside guy. Jacob Wozniak. Oh, yeah, I forgot that the Calgary pick went from 23rd to 29th. Ice Wozniak. Is that swing? You get a Coots that's more of a sure thing. Not a sure thing. It's still at 17th. No, 18th overall. But still, you got what I mean. Wozniak could potentially really be something considering what he's done at Swedish U20s. Has been so impressive. 6'2". Great shot on him. Prokhorov. This guy is like the ultimate question mark in this draft. One of the guys for the Athletic have him like 15th or 16th. I guess Philadelphia, take him, put him with Michkov potentially down the line and have a dominant Russian winger duo. Could make sense. Riker Lee, solid fit for the Carolina Hurricanes. Decent. And then Henry Brustevich, I think this pick makes all the sense in the world, considering San Jose does not have much in terms of their right side of the defense. I think their pick, it's probably not going to be 32nd overall. This is the Dallas pick. But at 30th, it's either going to be Blake Fiddler, Henry Brustevich, get a right-handed defenseman, shore up that side. Not saying those guys are sure things, but get a right-handed defenseman within the prospect pool, and then maybe go out to look to acquire one in free agency or through trade. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about this mock draft? Which picks were absolutely crazy? Which ones make perfect sense? I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace.